Welcome back, Virgo. It's Anna, and this is Virgo. Now, before anything else, I need you to understand something about the way this reading came in. Most of the time, energy arrives in layers. You peel back one thing and find another beneath it, and you work your way down slowly until you reach whatever is at the center. Today, there were no layers. What arrived was already at the center, raw, undiluted, and carrying the specific density of something that has been compressed for a long time into a very small space and is about to stop being compressed. News is coming, Virgo. Not the soft kind. Not the kind that arrives at the edges of your awareness and gently repositions things. The strong kind. The kind that lands in the body before the mind has processed it, the kind that makes you sit down. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and if something in you is already leaning forward, already sensing the outline of what I am describing, subscribe and stay close, because Virgo does not look away from the things that matter. Okay, so let's go into it. There is a particular quality to news that changes things. Not all news does this. Most news arrives, gets filed into the appropriate drawer of your understanding, and your life continues with a minor update applied to its operating system. The drawer closes. The day moves on. The news becomes a fact you carry rather than a force that acts on you. But then there is the other kind, the kind that does not go into a drawer, the kind that has no drawer that arrived in a shape that does not correspond to any of the pre-existing categories you have built to receive and store incoming information. The kind that lands in the middle of the floor of your interior world and simply sits there, too large for any shelf, too significant to be filed, demanding to be stood in front of and looked at directly until you have finished understanding what it actually is. What is coming belongs to that category. It is floor space news, not going anywhere news, the kind that will still be in the middle of the room tomorrow and the day after, continuing to ask to be looked at, continuing to insist on the particular quality of attention that it deserves and that the drawer filing approach cannot provide. And the reason it cannot be filed, the reason it will resist every attempt to normalize it, minimize it, translate it into something more manageable, is because it carries within it the specific weight of something true, not partially true, not true with asterisks, true in the way of things that were always true and are only now finding the form that allows them to be delivered. Let's talk about the word strong in this context, because it is doing real work in what is coming, and it deserves precision. Strong news is not necessarily loud news. This is the confusion we tend to associate strength with volume, with drama, with the kind of announcement that arrives with visible fanfare and demands immediate response. But the strongest things in a human life are almost never the loudest. They are the ones with the most gravity, the ones whose weight you continue to feel long after the initial moment of their arrival. The ones that a week from now, a month from now, you are still standing in front of, still discovering new dimensions of, still finding that they mean something slightly different than you thought they meant when they first landed. What is coming has that gravitational quality. It is not the news that shocks and then dissipates. It is the news that settles. That takes up permanent residence in your understanding of a situation, of a person, of your own life, and what it is moving toward. It arrives once and stays, not as haunting, as foundation, as a new piece of ground under your feet that was not there before and cannot be removed once it has been placed. The strength of it is in its permanence, in the way it will reorganize things quietly and completely, the way a keystone reorganizes an arch, not by being the largest piece, but by being the piece that holds all the other pieces in their correct relationship to each other. Before the keystone, the structure is just a collection of stones leaning against each other, hoping to hold. After the keystone, it becomes something with actual integrity, something that can bear weight. What is coming is a keystone. You will understand this more fully once it arrives. Someone has been doing something in the dark for a while. Not something sinister. The dark here is not the dark of concealment for malicious reasons. It is the ordinary, necessary, deeply human dark of a person processing something privately before they are ready to bring it into the light of shared space. The dark of interior work, of the kind of sorting and deciding and revising and finally arriving at clarity that most people need to do alone before they can do it with anyone else. Whew, that person has arrived at clarity. The processing is done. The sorting has produced a conclusion. The revising has reached a final draft. And the final draft, the thing they have been working toward through however many versions of themselves and however many iterations of the same essential truth, is ready to leave the interior and enter the world, ready to cross from the private into the shared, ready to stop being something one person carries alone and become something two people hold together. The crossing is what generates the news, not the feeling itself. The feeling has been present in various forms and intensities for longer than this moment, not the decision. The decision was made in some prior private hour. But the act of crossing, of the thing that was interior becoming exterior, of the held becoming spoken, that crossing produces something new in the world, a fact that did not exist in shared space before and will continue to exist there now, regardless of what happens next. Facts of that kind, facts born of genuine interior clarity, finally stepping into exterior expression, have a solidity that very few things match. They are not going to be retracted by the morning light. They are not going to be walked back into the silence that carried them for so long. They are out, they are real, they are yours to receive. Here is something about receiving strong news that almost no one prepares for. The first response is almost never the real response. What arrives immediately in the first seconds, the first minutes after something significant lands, is usually the most defended version of your actual response. The version your nervous system produces before the real information has finished traveling from the surface down into the deeper layer where real reactions live. It is the response you were trained to give, the response that fits the shape of who you have decided you are in situations like this, the response that is, in some sense, a performance not dishonest but incomplete. The real response comes later, sometimes hours later, sometimes in the shower the next morning when the defended surface has had time to soften and the actual feeling, the one your body was producing all along underneath the managed exterior, finally rises to the level of consciousness. Sometimes it comes in the middle of a completely unrelated activity, ambushing you in the produce section of a grocery store, or at a traffic light, or in the seconds between one thought and the next, arriving with the blunt force of something that was always there waiting for the right moment to be fully felt. Give yourself permission to have that second response, the real one, the one that does not perform its way through the significance of what was received, but simply sits in it, moves through it at the speed real things move, which is almost always slower than the speed we would prefer. Let's go into what is actually contained in this news, because the shape of it matters. It contains, first of all, something about a person's assessment of you, not the casual, surface level assessment, not the impression you make, not the qualities that are easy to appreciate from a comfortable distance, but the deep assessment, the one formed over time through observation and through whatever the particular history between you has produced. The one that has survived, and this is the significant part, the version of you that is not always at your best, that has seen the less curated moments, the moments of doubt and uncertainty, and the particular unguardedness that slips through when someone is no longer performing for an audience. That version of you was assessed, and the assessment is unexpectedly, perhaps even overwhelmingly, in your favor. Not in the way of someone cataloging your virtues with detached fairness, in the way of someone who has looked at all of it, the full, unfiltered, unglamorous reality of you, and found that they want more of it. That the sum of it, imperfections and uncertainties, and all the complicated in between, adds up to something they are not able to stop wanting to be near. That is a specific kind of being seen that most people spend years hoping for and rarely find. It is being chosen not despite your reality, but because of it. Being wanted by someone who actually knows what they are wanting. Being valued not for the performance, but for the person behind it. That is part of what the news contains. A specific, fully informed, arrived at through genuine engagement, choosing of you. The second thing the news contains is a direction, not a destination. Destinations have a finality that does not belong to what is forming, but a direction. A clear, committed, no longer ambiguous declaration of where this person intends to move and what they intend to build and what role they see you playing in the architecture of what comes next for them. Direction is different from feeling. Plenty of people feel things intensely and remain directionless in relation to those feelings, caught in the experience of them without being able to move. Direction requires something additional. It requires the translation of feeling into intention, of intention into commitment, of commitment into the willingness to say out loud to another person, this is where I am going. This is what I am choosing. This is the thing I have decided in the most honest layer of myself that I want. This person has made that translation. The direction is set. And the direction is toward you, not toward a version of you, not toward the you that is most convenient for their narrative. Toward the actual you, the one you are when no one is managing their impression of you, the one that exists in the unguarded moments, the one that this person has been paying enough attention to actually know. There is a quality to the days after strong news arrives that I want to prepare you for. The world looks the same, the coffee tastes the same, the light comes through the window at the same angle it always comes through. Your phone buzzes with the same notifications. The ordinary architecture of your life continues to present itself with complete visual consistency. And yet something is fundamentally different, not in the external world, in the internal one, in the way you move through the familiar spaces of your life, carrying a new understanding of them. In the way certain things that mattered enormously last week seem to recede slightly to find their appropriate smaller scale, now that something larger has been placed in the frame for comparison. In the way certain things that seemed impossible, that occupied the category of things you wanted but did not expect, begin to quietly migrate toward the category of things that are actually happening. That migration is the real explosion, not the moment of the news, not the initial impact, but the slow, pervasive, entirely internal detonation of a person's sense of what is available to them, of what their life can actually contain, of what they are, in the most concrete and non abstract sense of the word, allowed to have. You are allowed to have this, Virgo. Not as a reward for something earned, not as a result of finally being enough, but simply because it is real and it is here, and the person carrying it towards you did not arrive carrying it by accident. Here is where I leave you, and I want the leaving to be clean. Something is approaching your life with significant speed and significant weight, something that was processed in private across a span of time you may not have had full visibility into, something that arrives not as impulse but as conclusion, the hard won, carefully considered, fully committed conclusion of someone who knows their own mind on the subject of you. When it arrives, in whatever form the delivery takes, through whatever channel